Hello and welcome to the May Clan Mother, Listening Woman, from the 13 Original Clan Mothers by Jamie Sams. Echoes of the ancestors ride the waves of change, voices of the creatures calling out my name, singing spirits on the breeze, the crashing of waves to shore, the pounding of Earth Mother's heart, teach me what to listen for. In stillness before dusk and dawn, hidden messages are set free. Like the chants of my people, their rhythms speak to me. My ears can hear this music and my heart can understand. Clan Mother of the Tiowe, I am yours to command. I listen for your whispers on a course you will chant, searching for the still voice that lives within my heart. Clan Mother of the 5th moon cycle. Listening Woman is the clan mother of the Tiowe, the stillness, whose moon cycle falls in the month of May. The color connected to her moon is black and represents seeking an answer. Her cycle of truth is hearing the truth. This clan mother teaches us how to enter the silence and how to listen to the ever-present messages of nature. Our hearts, the spirit world, the viewpoints of other humans and creature teachers, and the great mystery. In Seneca tradition, entering the stillness is called Tiowe, which is translated as the stillness. Once a person can access the stillness and can hear the small, still voice within, that person has the potential to realize personal wholeness because she has accessed the voice of inner truth. Listening Woman teaches us to listen to all the viewpoints represented in our world in order to learn the harmony that can be found through allowing each life form to have its sacred point of view. This clan mother teaches us that we will never learn or expand if we do not listen to what is being said. She shows us the crooked trail of having to talk all the time. When we are talking, we are not listening. When we ignore or cut off the voice of another person who is telling us something we don't want to hear, we may be stopping our own growth. Many wounded people in our world do not want to hear the truth because they feel that it hurts them. The willingness to listen to the truth about oneself when it is delivered with loving compassion is a great talent and can heal old wounds. Listening Woman has the ability to hear more than the words of her human children. Even when they are afraid to speak the truth of how they feel, this clan mother listens to others with her heart as well as with her ears. She can hear the unspoken heart's desire of her human children as well as their unspoken fears. She can hear the nonverbal languages of the animals, plants, and stones as well as the voices of the ancestors coming from the spirit world. Listening Woman's talents are derived from her ability to be totally still, to take in all the impressions she can gather, and then to formulate a concept of the whole. Listening Woman teaches us how to discern whether people are speaking the truth by listening to the inflections and feelings contained in their words. She shows us that many humans do not know how to express their personal truths because they deny their true feelings. Some humans may lie to cover their fear of retribution or punishment. Some people tell lies to feel included or important. But all people who seek untruths are detectable if we develop the art of listening. Showing compassion for those who feel they must lie is a sign of spiritual maturity. The person who lies is wounded. The untruthful people of our world are only lying to themselves because they have not heard the voice of their Arindas or spiritual essences. To live in total truth is to know the light of the eternal flame of love. Listening Woman hears every thought, senses every feeling, and receives every impression in the Tiowe, the stillness. She uses her gift of prophecy based on the information she collects. The clan mother of the Tiowe can foretell the probable future, showing us our potentials to follow the beauty way or the crooked trail. She sends us warnings when we are off balance and encouragement when we are walking with grace. The omens, portents, signs, and guideposts of life come to us because Listening Woman has heard our hearts, our spoken intent, our unspoken desires, and our needs. The messages she sends our way are the allies of nature, the ancestor spirits, the creature teachers, and/or the voices of our Arindas. Entering the stillness. This is the story about Listening Woman when she was a two-legged. She lived as a human for as long as it took for her to learn the lessons she needed to learn before she entered the spirit world to then guide the sisterhood from above. Entering the stillness. Listening Woman remembered the first human experience she went through when she came from the spirit world to walk the earth. Many, many moons had passed since then, and yet the sweetness of that first moment was alive in her memory, giving her comfort amidst the all-consuming task she faced being an advisor and counselor to her human children. Her senses drank in the smells and the sensations of that long-ago time, allowing her to float back into the precious memory of her first awakening. Listening Woman came into her human form in a giant cavern where the blackness was complete. Even with her eyes open, she was surrounded by total darkness and vast nothingness. She did not know that her human eyes could encompass the beauty of the natural world. She was enveloped in the scent of damp earth, a faint, acrid smell of growing rock formations, and the clean, sweet perfume of her own body. In the darkness, she felt her human flesh for the first time, reveling in the sensations of smooth skin, well-formed muscles. She touched her head and was surprised at how long her hair softly covered her shoulders, falling below her hips like a mantle to protect her from the chill of the cavern. With each movement of her body, she felt other textures. Tiny grains of pebble-like sand covered the surface beneath her, gently rubbing her legs. She heard moisture dripping from the ceiling above, giving delight as a drop or two hit her skin, sending new sensations through her body. The soft roundness of her belly and breasts was very different from the strong muscular legs that curled beneath her torso while she sat on the cavern's floor. Her fingertips traced the line of her lips, and she noticed that they were full and soft, the texture of the skin being different from the chin beneath or the cheekbones above. As she fingered the curve of her eyes, she gave a start when she realized that the eyelids were coverings used to protect the sensitive round orbs beneath them. One eye watered, cleansing itself from her unknowing touch, sending a tear coursing down her cheek. She noted the unfamiliar sensation of discomfort and wetness as a part of her discovery. She made a mental note that some parts of this human form were very sensitive and would need to be handled with care. As Listening Woman continued her discovery, by touching her neck, she felt the strong, lean curve of the graceful pedestal that held her head above her body, noticing that they were solid, structural, just beneath her skin at the back. The skeletal forms of her spine that gave her flesh a frame felt angular in comparison to the firm smoothness of the muscles that covered them. Her fingertips moved up the side of her neck, and she felt the shell-like appendages of her ears. In the deep darkness of the cavern, the guardian of inner knowing could hear the silent movement of her hands, the gentle rasp of her breath, the dripping of water droplets, and the rustle of her legs against the cave's floor when she shifted her body's position. She drank in every sign as she moved and touched her feet, toes, ankles, and shins, marveling in the magnificence of the human form she had inherited. As Listening Woman stretched her body and found the ways in which she could position her form, she discovered gurgles coming from the organs within her torso. A slight ache in the middle of her belly resounded with a rumble that echoed through the cavern. She was concerned with the new development and silently sent her thoughts to the Earth Mother. "Mother, I do not understand this sound and the ache in my middle. I feel like something is missing, and yet I know that the great mystery created these beautiful human forms in wholeness. What do I need to learn?" The Earth Mother's voice filled the mind and heart of Listening Woman as she answered her daughter. These sounds are part of the human body, child. Sometimes these gurgling noises mean that the body is digesting the fuel that is needed to give the body strength. At other times, the rumbles mean the body needs sustenance to maintain its stamina. You are feeling the ache because there is a hunger for your food that the body needs. Listening woman sat in the stillness, feeling the ache deep in her belly, and listened to the accompanying sounds to become familiar with the language of her body's needs. She asked the Earth Mother how she could feed the form that housed her spirit. The Earth Mother spoke to her daughter, explaining that the basket of food had been placed in the cavern very close to the Clan Mother, and that by using her sense of touch, listening woman could find it and feed herself. The keeper of introspection began to grope the space around her in circular motion, encountering the basket of food a short distance away. She felt the textures of each food, that substance, while the Earth Mother told her how to use taste and chew slowly. The sounds of eating were very different depending upon the choice of food she made. Some sounds were softer, allowing her to hear the swirl of her tongue over the juicy flesh of a ripe peach. When she bit into a carrot, the loud crunch of her teeth against the firmness of the vegetable echoed in her ears and filled the emptiness of the cavern with waves of startling sounds. Listening woman was amazed by the volume of the noises and paused, afraid to continue or swallow. The gentle laughter of the Earth Mother filled the Clan Mother's sense of inner knowing, relieving her trepidation. The Earth Mother's joyous assurance that all was as it should be gave the Clan Mother a desire to crunch louder. The keeper of discernment found the feelings inside of herself that told her it was all right to continue. She crunched down on the bite of carrot and made the loud echoes again and again, filling the cavern with the sounds of enjoyment that came from relishing the sweet tastes of the carrot. Listening woman noticed that her body was no longer groaning and that the feeling of something being missing was gone. A new feeling of fulfillment had replaced the emptiness, and she noticed the contentment and sense of well-being that flooded her body. She kept the basket near her in case the rumble started again, because she had no idea how long her body would need food. She returned her attention to the sounds and sensations found in the obsidian blackness of the cavern. The stillness was interrupted by the reverberating sound of liquid dripping from the ceiling on the cavern and hitting a large pool of water behind her. The Earth Mother urged her to find her sense of direction by noting where the sounds came from and following her splashes until she reached their origin. The Clan Mother crawled toward the drip and splash noises until she felt the same kind of wetness she had discovered when the tear had rolled down her cheek. The Earth Mother explained that the liquid was water and did not taste salty like the tear from Listening Woman's eye. This sweet water was used to quench thirst, a dryness, and was essential to the human's body. Listening Woman listened how to cup her hands and take the water to her lips and drink. The accompanying sounds were not unlike the gurgles she had heard coming from hunger. The Clan Mother discovered that she could make different noises when she lapped the water, slurped, or swallowed. The echoes of each sound filled the pregnant void with the myriad of resounding waves of vibrations, giving Listening Woman a multitude of new noises to experience. At one point in her process of reaching into the water, the Clan Mother encountered a small stone. She pulled the stone person from the pond and felt the solid form, noticing that it was much harder than the bones of her body and larger than the pebbles that covered the floor of the cavern. When the stone person spoke to her in the same way that Earth Mother had spoken to her inner knowing, Listening Woman was so startled that she dropped the stone person into the pool of water with a resounding splash. The stone person continued to speak to her, explaining that he was a friend. Groping in front of her to retrieve the rock, Listening Woman found herself making all sorts of strange noises. Her breath started to come in harder gusts, and she could hear the pounding of her heart as she frantically felt below the water's surface for the friend she had dropped in her moment of surprise. The stone person guided her hands to his resting place and then began to explain how he could aid her in the further discovery of her gifts, talents, and abilities. "I'm Rock Person, who holds the libraries of all that has passed on the Earth Mother. Together, we can approach the outside world, learning what you need to experience in order to fulfill your mission. You have already begun that journey by learning the language of your body's needs, how to hear the Earth Mother's voice, and how to listen to my words. Here, in the darkness, you are beginning to develop the skills of understanding that make up the many levels of sound within sight, taste, and touch, without visual contact and feelings, without outside confusing influences. These first encounters with your abilities of perception will allow your heart to hear the truth in every situation you encounter in physical life. The darkness of the void of the unknown will be confronting to you, and the answers you seek will come through your ability to hear them. Listening woman's breath came in soft, even rhythms as she heard her new friend in her heart. The keeper of discernment felt a kinship and a trust between herself and the stone person who called himself Hagiu, old man. In his ancient form, listening woman found the comfort of the kindred spirit because her own spiritual essence was as old as the Earth Mother and Grandmother Moon, who were created in the spirit world by the great mystery. One man, old man, understood the clan mother's desire to find out all that she could about her humanness and the things she needed to master on her path of wholeness. That friendship had been the beginning of her journey, the long ago memory, and how much she had grown with old man's assistance, created a chain of pictures and sensations that flooded listening woman's mind and senses. She recalled her first experience with light and the gentle steps that old man had insisted she take when she emerged from the cavern. Old man had introduced her to Aunt, who had taught her the medicine of patience, and had spoken of the wisdom of taking the time needed for her eyes to adjust to the light that filtered into the cavern. The brightness of the outside world grew as the clan mother and old man spent one sun and sleep closer to the entrance of the cave, allowing listening woman to keep her hearing abilities intact while she blended her talent of listening with the new experience of sight. Her excitement at seeing new colors and forms nearly got the best of her in those first sighted moments. The urge to rush into discovery had to be curtailed for her to maintain physical, emotional, and spiritual balance. Now, many moons later, listening woman was happy that she had honored the wisdom and harmony that had allowed her to emerge from the cavern into the outside world in a balanced way. Her mind returned to another memory of progress she had made during the winters she had learned about the other two-legged humans she would share the world with during her journey on the red road of life. In those early times, when she encountered other human beings, listening woman was able to develop her gifts of inner knowing because humans had not yet developed speech. The human tribe spoke Hail-O-Way and the language of love. Oh, I love that. This nonverbal language expressed the heart in any matter of two-legged needed to communicate. This nonverbal language expressed the heart of any matter a two-legged needed to communicate. In silence, the observer had to watch and note the expressions, movements, and feelings being shared by the one who was communicating. To receive the wholeness of any message, the listener had to focus on the person communicating without interjecting or interrupting. Listening woman had mastered the art of hearing the language of love and oftentimes heard the thoughts of others through her ability to access their inner knowing as well as her own. The clan mother remembered how she had been able to teach others the same talent of understanding the voice of another's heart and how the human tribe had benefited in those early times. Since then, the Earth Mother had completed many rotations around Grandfather Sun, and the children of Earth had grown and changed, some for the better, some for the worse. The progression of human spiritual evolution was a concern to Listening Woman because she had witnessed the truth, and she had witnessed the crookedness that some verbal language had brought forth in those who wanted to hide the misaligned truths of their intentions. Greed and desire for control had given birth to forked tongues and double meanings in the spoken word. Her talents had naturally been honed into precision during the course of her encounters with individuals who spoke with the seeming sincerity that masked their hidden agendas. Listening Woman had developed the gift of being a true observer by entering the stillness of her own being and having no preconceptions while she listened to others, observing every movement of their bodies and every crescendo or cadence in their voice. The clan mother could easily see if the speaker was nervous, hiding something, or merely shy. Over the passing of seasons, Listening Woman earned her role of being the keeper of discernment. Every feeling of warning that issued forth from her navel, the feeling centered in her body, sent shockwaves through her senses of wellness and allowed her to discern who to trust, and with whom she needed to exercise caution. Many of her lessons had been hard-earned. She had been forced by circumstances to pay attention to actions rather than words. This form of observing took a deeper concentration and focus as the clan mother delved farther into listening to her heart's impressions of the speaker in front of her. It had been during one of these particularly difficult situations that Listening Woman had been blessed with hearing the voice of her Orinda, her spiritual essence. The bitter cold, which is now the bitter cold, of the winter sun had made it almost impossible to relax into the tiawa, the stillness. Listening Woman had nearly decided that the time was not right for her to enter to hear the stories of the two men who had asked for her advice. The winter winds pressed through any tiny opening in the hides that covered the entrance of the cavern of the tribe she was with, creating unwelcomed wafts of cold that sent every muscle into her tense knots. The clan mother knew that she risked becoming short-tempered with the men and that she might have a difficult time discerning their shivers from the telltale signs that usually allowed her to perceive hidden messages or untruths. She knew that in meeting these two men, she would have to stretch her capacity to hear the truth, listening to their inner thoughts and unspoken intentions. During the time that the three spent together, the clan mother listened with her whole being, sensing the urgency of the situation, as well as the impatience of one of the men. The viewpoints of the men differed greatly, making each certain that the other was incapable of understanding. The guardian of introspection took the time she needed before saying anything and told the men that they would meet again during the following sun. After the men left her fire, Listening Woman felt confused by all she had heard, the gestures of each man, the way the bitter cold had robbed part of her focus. As she sat gazing into the flame of her fire twig, she closed her eyes and felt deep into her being. A feeling of warmth roused itself from the stillness and poured through her like a golden honey, sweetened and rich. The clan mother felt herself expanding beyond the limits of her human form. The clan mother felt herself expanding beyond the limits of her human form and then beyond the walls of the cavern and the tribe called home. To the stillness, she heard a faint whisper, a voice that she did not recognize. The orange flames flickered in the light and the shadows, got the orange flames here. The orange flames flickered with the light and the shadow against her closed eyelids as she followed the whisper into the grayness that bordered her senses. The journey took her into the blackness of the void of the unknown, beyond the boundaries of her perceptions. The voice grew clearer and more animated and closer the closer she traveled to the sound. A light began to emerge in the darkness of the void. leading listening woman to a brilliance she had never encountered before. The light was made of a multicolored bursts of flame that changed with the cadence of the voice that spoke from the center of the fire. Listening woman felt a lump rise in her throat and tears sting her eyes as she discovered the voice of her Orinda. So this is her own inner voice. She had ventured beyond her human form, yet she could feel every emotion and subtle change in her body. She heard the sound of her throat trying to swallow, the crackling of the twig fire, and the almost imperceivable sob caused by her own joyous tears, and the voice of her spiritual essence. In her state of heightened awareness, the clan mother understood all the steps of her passage and how each and every lesson had brought her to this moment of personally realized wholeness. The voice of her Orinda was the welcoming voice that signaled that she had come home to her true self. An overwhelming rush of emotion in her body with feelings of gratitude, satisfaction, permanence, humility, wonder, nurturance, belonging, achievement, and a desire to know more. She was taken aback by the beauty of the eternal flame of love that held the Orinda's voice dancing in her mind's eye. In her heartbeat, she was aware of the Earth Mother's nurturance of her physical form and the great mystery's loving protection of her spiritual essence. The two worlds of spirit and of tangible substance had become one inside her Orinda. She heard the harmony of creation issue forth from the center of her being, singing the music found in all spheres of life. Every life form had a melody intricately harmonizing with all the others. There was no room for discord in the symphony of sounds that flooded through her perceptions. Her heart, body, mind, and spirit had a new sense of wholeness. Nothing seemed too far or too great to encompass as her ability to hear every voice in creation grew stronger inside her being. The desire to have every human being share in her experience was interrupted by the voice of her Orinda. Self of myself, you are expressing the Creator's desire of unlimited joy. You are blessed with the generosity of spirit that wants all others to find this inner knowing. Until each human being has walked the paths to wholeness that you have walked, they cannot fully understand the ecstasy and bliss of your experience. Every being must be given the opportunities that they need in order to find their individual paths home to true self. Listen to their hearts and guide them in ways that allow them to know that they may accomplish the tasks of homecoming for themselves. Listening woman asked the voice of her Orinda if there was some way that she should direct the human children, and the voice of her Orinda replied, "Teach them how to listen to their voices of the natural world. Call upon Hawk," which is my totem, which is why I'm called Sunshine Kitty Hawk. Hawk is the messenger, that carries those words of wisdom to assist you in showing the two-leggeds how to listen. So Hawk is the messenger. Listen to his medicine or her medicine. Teach them the compassion of Ant, whose medicine is patience, and the wisdom of Armadillo, whose medicine shows them how to keep the feelings and troubles of others out of their sacred spaces by using boundaries. Very important, people. Show the human beings the listening abilities of Rabbit and how he teaches his medicine of not listening to unrealistic fears. Point out that medicine of Mockingbird, who teaches two-leggeds the gifts of recalling and repeating all they have heard. Call upon Ferret to use the medicine of ferreting out the answers by using deduction and reason. Porcupine can assist your children by teaching them the medicine of faith and innocence. They will need to have faith in their paths, their abilities, and their connections to the great mystery, as well as the kind of innocence and humility that keeps the limitations of skepticism and arrogance from daunting their progress. Deep inside her heart, Listening Woman recorded all that the voice of her Orinda had shared with her. The guardian of introspection understood that she had completed her final rite of passage, which reflected her personal realization of wholeness. Her next step on the great medicine wheel of life would be teaching her human children how to hear and interpret the messages they received. The roar of the sea lion resounded in her memory, reminding her that she could call on the abilities of the seals and the sea lions to teach her human children the medicine of riding the waves of their emotions and feelings in order to discover all facets of themselves. Through trusting their feelings, her human children could learn the many levels of discernment necessary for hearing the truth. Listening Woman had learned many lessons during that sun of bitter cold and fiery feelings of wholeness. Then she applied the new understanding of the two men who had asked for her counsel. She had taught the two men how to see the harmony of the other's viewpoint by making them stand in the position of the other, pretending to voice the opposite viewpoint until they respected the other's opinion. Those earlier events seem so very long ago. During the generations that followed, Listening Woman had grown and continued to develop her skills. As if they were rare medicine objects, she quietly put away her precious memories, wrapping them in the tiowa, using the stillness like a medicine bundle to hold the sacred remembrances of her passage. Now it was time for the clan mother to enter tiowa and listen to the words of a young woman who was struggling to understand her dreams and the messages she had received. As Grandfather Sun rode low in the Sky Nation, Listening Woman helped the young dreamer to interpret the symbols and spoken wisdom she had gathered from her visions. Listening Woman showed the younger woman how to ask herself leading questions that would enable her to find her own answers. The tools that the clan mother used sparked understanding, always asking the young woman to think, to remember, to feel, and to honor the still inner voice that insisted that the dreamer hear the truth inside her own heart. Very important. Listening Woman would listen to the girl and then ask, how did that make you feel? Or what did that creature seem to be teaching you? In every instance, when a person seeking counsel felt safe and like she or he was really being heard, the inner knowing would shine forth. Listening Woman found herself becoming a reflector for those seeking assistance, always recognizing that at some point all her children needed to be reassured. Some were frightened of the stillness, others were afraid of the darkness of the void, still others were scared of how they might hear because they had denied their truth inside themselves. Each member of the human tribe was an individual who had to follow the path of wholeness that suited him or her, but all the human tribe would have to discover inner hearing before those paths would be reached in order to reach the wholeness that they sought. Hearing the voice of the Orinda was the manner in which all humans would eventually realize their potentials. Without that ability to listen to their heart's desires and inner truths, they were lost. Listening Woman taught them that the first step on every individual path was learning to listen to their bodies and to each other with respect. Later, they were taught the skills of listening to nature. Then, how to hear and interpret the unspoken messages of the natural world and the voices of the ancestors that rode in the winds. Further along the path to wholeness, the children of Earth learned how to listen to their own spoken words, comparing what they actually said to the truth found in their Orinda's voice. This step was a weeding out process that struck at the heart of the limitations and illusions found along the red road of human life. As Listening Woman received the skills she had been able to pass along to the children of Earth, the fluttering of her heart caught her attention. She focused on the flutter and found the voice of her Orinda, filled with love. She shuddered as she went through the clan mother's body as the voice spoke. The children of Earth will heal their wounds and find the same joy that you have cradled in your heart. Self of myself, there is more inner peace available with each passing season because more members of the human tribe are discovering the way home. The love is returning. As that flow of life increases and the two-leggeds find the eternal flame of love inside of themselves, hey yo way and the language of love will return. They will once again be able to hear the pureness of each other's hearts and understand the harmony of creation that the great mystery has given as a legacy of peace. All life forms will live together as one and will support all others without judgment or exception. Listen, can you hear it? As the voice of her Arinda faded, listening woman heard the faint murmurs of the breeze building in pitch, climbing the ridges across sacred mountains and circling the Earth Mother. The voices of the ancestors rode the winds of change, whispering to all who could hear. Now is the time of the return of White Buffalo. It is time to set aside your fears and to join us in the quest for wholeness and unity. Children, call to this grandmother who can teach you the harmony of your heart's inner peace. Listening woman hears your call and stands ready to show you how to discover the way. Listen for the soft falling footsteps of your ancestors amid the pounding of white buffalo hooves, and know that every night we light the homecoming fires across the great expanse of the Sky Nation. In Tilawa, we wait. In the silence, they wait. We send you our ancient whispers to mark the harmony trail back to your heart's home. Listening woman sat in the stillness and listened. The emerging voices that were calling her name came as no surprise. The time for humans to listen and to reach for spiritual wholeness, discarding separation limitations, had finally arrived.